Hi everyone. This is our second lecture, 4.2, World Religion Profiles. In this lecture, we will be exploring the major world religions. By no means all the world religions, but the religions that I guess you're most likely to run into walking around in the world. So, in our agenda, we'll be talking about Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, and other world religions. Um, it's interesting to note that actually Judaism is not the fifth largest world religion. I believe Sikhism is numerically the fifth largest. But Judaism is incredibly relevant both to us culturally in the United States because we have the second largest population of Jewish people in the world, uh, but also because of the cultural ties between both Islam and Christianity to Judaism. But first, Christianity, and these are in terms of size of the religion itself. The leader being Jesus of Nazareth. Christ is actually a Greek word for the Savior. It's a title. Christ was not Jesus' last name. Some people don't know that. Central tenets of Christianity are if you have a relationship with Jesus, you will go to heaven. And Jesus was crucified, rose from the dead, and rose from the dead after 3 days. Those are at the basis of what Christians believe. Sorry, slight typo there. There are 2 billion followers of Christianity, largest world religion. What you might not know, there are many Christian denominations, which we'll talk about in the next lecture, and beliefs can vary widely across denominations. Areas where Christians might not necessarily agree with each other are in terms of same sex marriage, evolution, Trinitarianism, the existence of purgatory or hell, the nature of the resurrection, the age of the earth, when the soul goes to the afterlife, if sexual activity should be restricted to marriage, etc. You might not even know what all that stuff means. I'm just putting it there to show that there is a great diversity of what it means to be Christian and people who call themselves Christians. You might not also know that historians and anthropologists are almost certain that Jesus was not a white man with blonde hair and blue eyes, as many pieces of artwork would often show. Jesus was probably either someone who we consider ethnically Jewish or someone who would appear to be Middle Eastern to us. There is a chance that he may have been of African descent as well. Islam. Here are some observable facts about Islam. There are 1.5 billion followers of Islam who are known as Muslims. The major teacher of Islam is the Prophet Muhammad. The 5 central tenets of Islam are belief in Allah, and within Arabic, Allah means the God. The word al means the. Worship of Allah is another major tenet of Islam. Charitable giving. Muslims believe in charitable giving just like Christians and people of other faiths do, and that a given part of your income should be given to others. Muslims believe in fasting during the holy month of Ramadan. The holy month of Ramadan can appear to us using the Western calendar to jump around the year. That's because our Western calendar is a solar calendar, while the traditional Muslim calendar is a lunar calendar. It's based on the cycles of the moon. And pilgrimage to Mecca, the Hajj set of rituals, is considered very important to Muslims. If a Muslim can possibly afford it, they are expected to go at least once in their lifetime. That is, if they are a Muslim who lives in the United States or some other place very far from Saudi Arabia, where Mecca is. If you were a Muslim who lives in Saudi Arabia, you would be expected to go do that more. What you might not know about Muslims. Liberal Muslim women are not required to wear hijab. It is seen as being a choice and a show of dedication to the religion, but not strictly required. There are many Muslim women who consider themselves very deeply Muslim that don't wear hijab. Muslims observe dietary laws similar to Jews. There is the halal dietary laws of the Jewish people, the kosher dietary laws of the Jewish people, and off the top of my head, I don't remember the name of the Muslim dietary laws. I'm sorry about that. You can Google search that very easily. I'm just having a little brain problem there. There are exceptions for fasting during Ramadan. Not all Muslims are expected to fast. For example, if you are very sick, you're not expected to fast. If you are a pregnant woman, you are not expected to fast during Ramadan. It is not absolutely strict. Most Western Muslims reject violence, just like most Western Christians reject violence, right? Overwhelmingly, Islam is a peaceful religion, but it has driven some people to violence, just like Christianity has driven some people to violence, just like every religion has its unfortunate violent people. Let's talk about Hinduism. This is one that we don't know all that much about in the Western world typically. There are 828 million followers of Hinduism. The major teacher within Hinduism, this is interesting, is there is no central leader or hierarchy. Hinduism is an incredibly diverse world religion. So, because of that, there are many, 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 many subsects of Hinduism. There are leaders within Hinduism, but there's no, say, Jesus character or Muhammad type character within Hinduism to pull it all together. Central tenets of Hinduism include dedication to a deva, or what we would call God in our language. Reincarnation is another tenet of Hinduism, and that follows the cycle of karma, dharma, and moksha. Karma being physical, spiritual cause and effect. The idea being, well, first of all, reincarnation, if you're not familiar, is the idea that we as human beings, as spiritual animals, have lived many lives, and we likely will live many more. That's what happens to us after we die. Karma is spiritual cause and effect. So if you do good things, you get good karma. If you do bad things, you get bad karma. Karma being spiritual energy. And then dharma are the behaviors that create karma, right? So if you murder someone, that is a bad dharmic behavior. It creates negative karma, and that goes on your soul, right? If you save somebody's life, positive dharma, positive karma, and that goes on your soul. Now, we commonly misunderstand this in Western cultures and think, well, if you do something bad, then something bad will happen to you later that day. That's not how dharma and karma work from the Hindu perception. It goes onto your soul as a negative or positive net effect. And then once you die, that's when it comes into place. And that's when it impacts your reincarnation as either to get a better reincarnation or a worse reincarnation. And a better reincarnation doesn't necessarily have to be a human. It could be some sort of other better spiritually enlightened being. Or it doesn't. A negative one could be something worse too. It could be a donkey. You do something really bad, it could be a rock or a mountain or something like that. Moksha then is the pursuit of liberation from reincarnation, because reincarnation is not the end goal. If you are an incredibly good, incredibly enlightened being, you will not be reincarnated. You will go back into the energy that is the universe. From a Western perspective, from a more Christian or Jewish or Islamic idea, you could call that God becoming one with the creation of the universe. These things are kind of difficult to talk about because the translation isn't quite there. The words are more in Hindu. But, so a very good person escapes that cycle of reincarnation. I know, this is fascinating stuff. You might not know about Hindus that the gods serve as representation of the same aspect of the same supreme being. So there are hundreds and some say thousands of Hindu gods, but they are all seen as representations of the same capital G God, right? In this way, Hindus often can, well, some Hindus do, make the claim that Hinduism is a monotheistic religion. But that's just one interpretation of Hinduism. Hindu beliefs can vary dramatically. Some Hindus believe you should be vegetarian. Other Hindus believe that you should make animal sacrifices. Most Hindus believe that dead flesh should never be touched, especially human flesh, while some Hindus believe that they can attain spiritual enlightenment by handling a human corpse. That sect is called the Aghoris, and they're a very intense, you could probably label them as extremist group. They're not violent, they're just out there. And while most Hindus live in India, Hindus can be found all over the world. There is a sizable Hindu community in my city of Columbus, Ohio. They're not huge, but they're here. Buddhism. There are 400 million followers of Buddhism. Major teachers of Buddhism include the guy that's called the Buddha. His name was Siddhartha Gautama. He was a prince who became a priest and kind of founded Buddhism. The Dalai Lama is another big teacher within Buddhism. He is specifically the leader of Tibetan Buddhism, and he is said to be the 14th reincarnation of a man named Gendun Drup. So he's said to have lived 14 times already, and it's expected he will come back for the 15th time. Central tenets of Buddhism are called the Three Jewels. These include following the teachings of the Buddha, meditation in pursuit of enlightenment, this is called nirvana, and nonviolence. Buddhists are supposed to be nonviolent. They also believe in the concept of dharma, karma, and reincarnation, just like Hindus do. And Buddhists also believe in community with other Buddhists. So they believe that a sense of community is very important for being a Buddhist. You might not know that the Buddha is not a god. He is considered a teacher. There are many Buddhas. Not all of them have been human, according to this. Some of them have been things that we could consider like angels or gods in the Hindu sense. Buddhists can be atheists. It is possible for them to be monotheists, and many Buddhists are polytheists, believing in many gods. But Buddhists most typically don't believe in a creator god because they believe the universe has always existed and will always exist. Therefore, if it's always existed, there never was a creator, right? Because it was never created. It's always been here. Judaism. Observable facts about Judaism. There are 14 million followers of Judaism, commonly called Jews. The major leaders within Judaism are Moses and Abraham. There are other leaders, but Judaism is markedly less leader-oriented than, say, Christianity or Islam, but like Hinduism, they're not quite out there completely without leaders. Central tenets of Judaism include a worship of and reverence for God. Central to the religious beliefs of Judaism is that there is only one God and that he controls the universe, and that God is a spiritual, not a physical being. God is made up of spiritual energy. Jewish people also believe very strongly in community. This involves relationship with other people and remembering collective history. The Jewish people are very much about remembering their collective history, and a lot of that is based on their collective trauma, not just with what happened in the Holocaust during World War II, but trauma that happened prior to that too. Some very bad things have happened to the Jewish people in history. You might not know that not all Jews support the actions of the State of Israel. This is a very hot topic within the Jewish community. It may be safe to say most Jews agree with the action of the State of Israel, but not all do. Belief in an afterlife is not central to Judaism. It is a common belief that something happens to the soul after you die in Judaism, but it is not the central piece like it is in Christianity or Islam. They're not always talking about heaven and the afterlife in Judaism. Not all Jews follow kosher dietary laws. There are plenty of Jews out there that do eat bacon. Some people consider themselves Jewish, but do not consider themselves religious. This is an interesting phenomenon. There are many people that consider themselves even atheists, but consider themselves culturally Jewish. And this speaks very strongly to the emphasis on community in Judaism, where there are some people that call themselves Jews, don't even believe in God, but they are all about the community. Now let's talk about these things called cults. Almost any new religion can be labeled with the title of a cult because it is different, it's small, and it's new. And by this definition, Christianity was once a cult, Buddhism was once a cult, almost any world religion was once a cult. The label cult, however, may allow outsiders to persecute the new religion in ways that are not acceptable. Thus, just because a religion is new does not mean it really should be called a cult. There was a movement for some time to call them new religious movements. If we believe... that's weirdly worded. If we believe in religious freedom, then we should also believe in freedom of all religions, right? Even if they're weird. Even if they're worshipping the Kool-Aid Man. Even if whatever these people believe. If we truly believe in religious freedom as Americans, you can make an argument that cults should be okay too. Now with that said, there have been many con artists that have taken advantage of people in the name of religion. And there are dangerous cults who must be avoided. And I always bring this up because many college students are at the phase in their life where they're questioning things and they may be susceptible to falling in with a dangerous cult. Many people also explore their religion during their college years, and there's nothing fundamentally wrong with that. Just be careful you don't fall in with a dangerous group. Here are the warning signs of a dangerous cult. The first warning sign is that a leader cannot be questioned. Within any organization, leaders should be open to questioning and open to ideas and listen to their followers or people in the group. Within dangerous cults, leaders aren't allowed to be questioned. If the group wants massive amounts of money, not just like donations to keep the group going, but hundreds and thousands of dollars for your spiritual enlightenment, that's probably a cult. And members are not permitted to leave or contact friends or family. That is a dead giveaway that something's a cult. There have been many cults that have said, oh, you can't talk to those people anymore. they are dangerous, they're trying to hurt you, they're trying to take you away from us. That is absolutely a cult. A dangerous cult. Now let's talk about other world religions. There are other world religions in the world, and they have ideas or beliefs that may be different than those mainstream religions that I just mentioned, the major world religion. And these are just some ideas that are present in those world religions. One idea is that the ancestors are present in our lives and should be granted offerings when appropriate. This might be a specific day of the year. This might be any time that you pray. Mexican Christianity is not a specific, well, it's not a specific church. There's no Mexican Church of Christianity. But within Mexican Christianity and Mexican Catholicism, there is the Dia de los Muertos phenomena and holiday, which is not entirely part of the mainline part of the Catholic Church, but it is respected within that community. I'm sure living in New Mexico, you're possibly more familiar with it than I am. And that's seen and handled by the church as just the same way St. Patrick's Day is handled in the Irish Church. This is also present in other religions. There are beliefs that there are many gods. We see this in Hinduism. We see this in paganism and neo-paganism. We see this in indigenous animism. There are many religions that believe that there are many gods, not just one god. There are religions that believe that there is no afterlife, there is no soul, and there is no god or gods. And this leads to an interesting question. Is atheism itself a religion? Or is it a philosophy? Where does it fall? That is an interesting conversation to have. Agnosticism is another, is that a religion or not? Agnosticism is the belief that you're not sure if there is a God or not, and many people call themselves agnostic. But also Zen Buddhists. Many Zen Buddhists don't claim not to believe in a God or an afterlife either. Many world religions believe it is a sin to eat the flesh of an animal, and that humans should be vegetarian. There are many Buddhists and Hindus, not all, but many, believe that. This is especially prevalent in Rastafarianism, which can be said to be closely related to Judaism and Christianity. This is the belief system of Bob Marley, you may be familiar with. And another world religion belief is that certain drugs, such as marijuana, peyote, and other hallucinogens, do have spiritual uses. Not all world religions believe that it is a sin to use intoxicants. That is true in almost all Christianity, but it is different in other religions. Christianity, Islam, many world religions believe in absolute sobriety, but some don't. And that is it for this lecture. You've probably been hearing my youngest daughter wake up for a little bit. I guess I should go take care of her. And let me know if you have any questions on this topic. It is an interesting one.